All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sports Hype. We're going to be talking about all these mega deals happening in the NBA. Everyone's moving around in the NBA and in the NFL, and then also moving towards what's going on in the NFL, training camp. Why is everyone getting hurt? Joe Burrow, right? Jalen Ramsey, what's going on there? We'll be going into all of that. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, so I thought we'd start with NBA breaking record uh contract that Jalen Brown signed with the Boston Celtics. 5 years, $304 million mega deal. I know you and I aren't a big fan of Jalen Brown, and we had both thought that they should trade him this offseason. Clearly, the Celtics thought differently and gave him, I think, a way of an overpaid contract. But what's your thoughts on the whole situation?
For sure, right? He didn't perform in the playoffs, at least for the second year in a row now. Obviously, he showed up when he needed to. Not this past season, but the season prior to that when they made it to the finals, right? But then he didn't show up in the finals, right? It was only Jason Tatum. It was the Jason Tatum show the entire time, and even he fell apart in the finals. So when you look at it, right, when does he show up most in the important parts of the game, right, which is the playoffs, right? He doesn't do that. He's not even the best player on the team for a fact, right? He's not even a top 10 player in the league. So when you pay a player of this caliber, right, the most money in NBA history, it just raises the level. It raises the stakes for everyone else because if Dame or Jimmy Butler says, why is the second best player on the team getting this amount of money, right, when I'm the best player on the team and I'm making less than him? That doesn't make any sense. So everyone's going to want more money because Jalen Brown got that record breaking deal. Congrats to him. But also, the Boston Celtics ruined the NBA.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. The fact that Jalen Brown is making more money than Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo,
Right.
LeBron James, all these
Joel
other
Embiid,
players.
the
Yeah,
last three MVPs. So
all these other players that are 10 times better than him. No disrespect to Jalen Brown. He is a great role player, but he's not a superstar. And they paid him superstar money, which doesn't make much sense to me.
right there's a tipping point, right? When you're a star to a superstar. He had superstar potential. As of right now, in the past few seasons, he hasn't shown that superstar potential, right? Jason Tatum made that big leap going from a star to a superstar, and we know why the Boston Celtics are in the position where they are now, right? Is because of Jason Tatum. Also, though, when you look at Jalen Brown's contract, it just shows you, okay, is it because Jordan Poole is making this much money, right? Is it because Dylan Brooks is getting this much money from the Houston Rockets? It's like you look at all these other role players who don't deserve the amount they're getting, and Jalen's like, I'm better than all these guys. I deserve, if not the same amount, if not more. So I think that's why the Boston Celtics did what they did. And it's just the direction where the NBA is going, and we talked about this.
Yeah, I was about to say that we talked about this on the previous pod about a month ago, where we just said that the NBA is economically going downhill, and this deal really just proved that because, like you just stated, all those role players who are getting 100 to 150 million and aren't worth that much money. I mean, it's just putting the NBA in a very bad position for not only role players but superstars as well.
For sure. And when you're banking on the fact that he's going to be a superstar in the next 3 years, because after his third year, he's going to be making over $60 million a year, right? So when you're making over $60 million a year, you got to be a superstar, and they're banking on him becoming a superstar within the next 3 years.
Yeah, I really don't see that happening. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if Jason Tatum gets upset over this contract. Obviously, he's not going to come out and say it, but I'm sure he's talked to his camp about it. And if they don't win within the next 2 to 3 years, I wouldn't be surprised to see Jason Tatum in another uniform soon.
One, I do believe I I understand where you're coming from. I doubt that just because he is such a loyal person. It's Jason Tatum we're talking about here. Kobe Bryant fan. He's probably going to want to play in a Celtics uniform for the rest of his career. Um, at, at the same time, though, when you have Kristaps Porzingis, Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, all these other guys, right? Robert Williams, all these other great key role players as well. And you don't win a championship, that can disgruntle a superstar player, no matter who it is, right? Giannis Antetokounmpo possibly wants out of Milwaukee if they don't win, right? DeMar DeRozan might want out of Chicago if they don't start winning. Jimmy Butler wants to play for Miami because of all the success they've had and how close they become year upon year upon year, right? So when you come that close, or if you have success, players are going to want to stick with you. But if you're having these years where you go out, you get bounced out first, second round, right? Possibly conference championship, and you expect to be in the finals every single year, like Jason Tatum does, you're gonna get upset.
Yeah, and that's honestly why I feel like he could leave because to be honest with you, I don't like this Celtics team. I liked last year's Celtics team more than I like this year's Celtics team because they gave up their heart and soul in Marcus Smart
Exactly.
and they got Kristaps Porzingis, who is great, but he's also very inconsistent. And I just feel like that it's going to take a while for their chemistry to mesh, and they might not be as good as people think they will be.
They kept Brogdon though.
They did keep Brogdon, yeah.
Okay. So they do kind of have a point guard, right? They don't have a true point guard, but they have a point guard in Malcolm Brogdon. He's probably going to be starting this year. I don't expect him to be sixth man of the year once again. When you have Kristaps Porzingis, that adds another depth to your offense, right? Obviously, you had or still have Al Horford, but when you have a big that can score at all levels of the court, right? That just changes the game. When you have a big that plays defense in Robert Williams, right? It changes the game. So when you combine all these great aspects of all these players' games, you have a great, sound team. And they just have to make it work together. Now, obviously, Joe Mazzulla's first year didn't come to ending that he wanted it to, or the Celtics wanted it to. But now, hopefully, under his belt, the first year with his own coaching staff, hopefully, they can get it done this year.
Yeah. I still got some I still think the Bucks will be better than them in the East, so I won't be surprised if
I
they make it
agree
over the Celtics. But and obviously the Heat are always in the running, especially if they
for
get
sure.
Dame, which we'll talk about soon. So I'm
Don't
not
forget
saying
about
that.
the Cavs. Okay,
Yeah,
the
okay.
Cavs.
I'm not saying we'll talk about that later. I'm not saying that the Celtics don't have a chance because they always have a chance. They're one of the best teams in the East,
Sure.
but I just like those two teams specifically better than I like the Celtics right now.
Right, exactly. Because how can you get it? You don't get it done last year when you had a better team, right? And then these teams, if not getting better, they stayed the same, and they were already better the previous season. So when talking about that, you're just going against yourself in the Boston Celtics, right? You're gonna be climbing up a hill, whereas these other teams are already at the peak of the hill, the top of the hill, just waiting for you to get up there.
Yep. So we'll see what happens. But moving on to Damian Lillard, he did finally request a trade out of Portland after multiple seasons of being disgruntled. He's finally decided to try to move on. Obviously, the owner of the Trailblazers wants to get the best package possible. He doesn't care if it's the Heat. Dame wants the Heat. Sources are saying that the NBA could veto a trade to the Heat, which would suck to see because, I mean, I don't know why they would do that, but we'll get into that in a little bit. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this Dame Portland Trailblazers stalemate goes into the season and it's going to be like a Ben Simmons Philadelphia 76ers type of stalemate where Dame sits out for half the season until he gets traded at the trade deadline.
I don't see him sitting out. One, I think he's got too much class to sit out, unlike James Harden. But play for the team he's playing for, right? The team that he's on. Try to help them win as much as possible, and then dip when he gets traded. The thing with me and Dame is if James Harden and all these other players can force their way out of bad situations, why can't Dame? Right? Dame's one of the most loyal players in the league, right? He's not gonna just go ahead and switch teams just to switch teams. There's obviously a reason behind this. I think Adam Silver and the league should acknowledge this. It's going to be better for the league if he's on the team that he wants, not only the team that he wants, but the Miami Heat, MIA, right? One of the focal points of the NBA, right? Bringing more views, bringing in better ratings. If he's in Miami, the NBA is going to be better off, and so is Dame Dollar, Dame Lillard, right? Jimmy Butler, all those guys down in Miami is going to be better off. And so is Portland. To be honest, they're going to be able to rebuild the team that they want in a better amount of time, and there's going to be zero locker room issues.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that this shows me why exactly Dame wants out. He's disrespected in Portland, and the owner is showing that right now after the trade request. He said he will trade him, but he basically said that you're not going to go to the team that you want to go to. That's not a guarantee. And if he really respected him, I feel like he would try his best to guarantee that, like
Well,
James Harden did with the Rockets.
the fact of it is that it's not the fact that he doesn't want to give him up to Miami. It's the fact that they're not giving enough that they believe there's better packages out there, right?
Well, the thing is
Than
that they
what's
they don't
happening in
want
Miami.
the thing is they don't want Tyler Hero. So if I'm in Portland, I'll get a third team in there that does want Tyler Hero and get Dame to Miami.
You can see that, right? But at the same time, does a team want Dame to be happy, right?
True.
This other team, they're waiting on the fact that okay, what is the lowest amount we can get for Dame Lillard, right? The cheapest possible amount. And as time moves on, that amount's going to drop and drop and drop, right? So when that happens, I think teams are just waiting for that moment. They're not going to jump on it right now. They're going to wait till it's the cheapest amount, and then obviously get a great player in Dame Lillard.
Yeah, like I said, I don't expect this to get resolved in the offseason. I expect Dame to be a Portland Trailblazer for at least half of this season until the trade deadline.
I agree.
But moving on to another trade request, James Harden forcing his way out, trying to force his way out of yet another situation, this time the Philadelphia 76ers. He doesn't have any preferences of where he wants to go, but he just doesn't want to be with Philly anymore. So what's your thoughts on that whole situation?
Well, we talked about this, I believe, in the last podcast about him wanting to go out, possibly Houston, right? Where else was the other place? Houston or
Phoenix.
Phoenix, right? And obviously the Clippers. He wants to go play in LA, right? If he can go play for the Clippers, that's probably the best bet for him. He plays with Kawhi Leonard. Obviously, they're going to try to get rid of PG in that scenario. That would be a great fit for him as well, going into Philly. If they can get rid of Tobias Harris, which is pretty much PG's position, right? They do pretty much the same thing, but PG at a higher level. So when you can get rid of those two players on Philly, bring in PG and then possibly another role player for Tobias Harris or possibly two role players for Tobias Harris, right? I think all around both franchises will be better off and they can move on and, compete for a championship.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously the Paul George and Kawhi Leonard era hasn't worked out the way that the Clippers expected to. So I would expect them to move on from one of Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, if even if it's not for James Harden, for someone else, because they're getting frustrated, obviously, and that's been sourced throughout this entire offseason. Um, the fact that there hasn't been much noise around them trying to make trade offers for James Harden is kind of surprising to me, but they might be trying to wait until his leverage goes down to see if they can get him for maybe less. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to keep Paul George and pair him with Kawhi and Paul George, and then with Harden, and see if that works. And if it doesn't work, then move on from one of them the next season.
See, I believe you can say the same thing, right? Because obviously Phoenix got Bradley Beal for a bag of chips. They kept Devin Booker. Everyone thought it was going to be D-Book for Bradley Beal, and that didn't happen. They kept all their star players. So looking at that trade, anything can happen. I think you could have the PG, Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden scenario. It's just unlikely to me because I think the Clippers are a very smart organization. I think Philly's a smart organization, right? And they're gonna want an equal trade going on. And James Harden is still an elite player. He had the highest 3-point percentage in his career last year, increased his assist numbers, right? He's still a great player. PG's fallen off just a touch, I would say, obviously since his 2018, 2019 year, right? When he was in Oklahoma City, an MVP candidate. So talking about that, I think right now they're pretty even. I would just go James Harden, Paul George, to be honest, because I think they're in the same scenario right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think James Harden is waiting a little bit though, because I think he wants to play with both Paul George and Kawhi. So he's trying to see if his leverage can get him that. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see him sit out another season to get that, because we've seen him do it before, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again.
Here's the reason why I would say he's not gonna sit out is one, it's not the fact that he's in a rebuild mode like he was in Houston. He is in a championship competing team in the 76ers with Joel Embiid, who are still great friends with each other. It's not that their relationships have strained or what the case. It's the fact that he doesn't like the organization. Like many other players have stated in the past, the organization front office doesn't have a great outlook on winning a championship, right? They're not the winning mindset, obviously, with Jimmy Butler leaving, right? He made his point very clear why he didn't like that organization. And I think it's the same thing with James Harden. But the team around him, I think he loves his team, right? I think he'll play with his team because he loves those guys in the locker room, not the front office.
Yeah, that's fair. I can see that. Obviously he didn't throw any of his teammates under the bus after their playoff loss. He threw Daryl Morey under the bus really
Sure.
after the playoff loss, and that just shows me that he never really liked Daryl Morey. Even when they were in Houston, that's why he wanted out, and now he wants out again. I don't think that's a coincidence. So yeah, I thinking about that, I could see him playing, but just like Dame, I think he starts in a 76ers uniform and then halfway through he'll be in a different uniform.
For sure. Here's another guy I'm looking at right now that's gonna obviously change uniforms if they don't start winning or if he gets injured or what the case may be. It's gonna be Paul George, right? If he doesn't perform the way they expect him to perform, they don't start winning in the regular season, they're gonna need to change things up because Kawhi Leonard only has so much time, like LeBron James and so many other players in the league, to capitalize on his performances and his greatness. When winning a championship, you got to capitalize on that, and that means trading Paul George.
Do you think that they would trade Kawhi Leonard though too? Because I mean, he's missed just as many games as Paul George. He has been performing though when healthy. That's the difference. But it, health wise, they're not much different.
Health-wise, they're not much different, but like you said, when Paul George or when Kawhi Leonard plays, it's a prolific, game. The man scoring 40 points, 60% from the field, right? Doing everything he can, playing defense, right? Playing both ways, going up against the Phoenix Suns pretty much by himself, winning one or two games, possibly almost three, right? Almost two games, forcing, forcing them to have home court advantage, right? It's it's Kawhi Leonard. He's a top three player in the league when healthy. Just like with LeBron James, right? Just like with Steph Curry and those guys. When he's healthy, no one can beat him.
Yeah, I agree. I don't expect them to trade Kawhi. If they do make a trade, I do expect it to be centered around Paul George because, like you said, he's inconsistent. When he's on, but when he's off, he's off. And I would rather keep Kawhi Leonard even though he's not on the court as much as Paul George.
Right. And to me, Paul George is expendable. You can get the most for him, right? And keep your best player in Kawhi Leonard. So that's the best option to trade Paul George.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to the NFL, as you said in your opening statement, there has been a lot of injuries in the first week of training camp.
Right.
Countless of injuries. I mean, you can't even count them on your hands. There's been that many injuries.
Right.
It's worse than I've ever seen it for the first week of training camp. So, what's your thoughts? Like, why do you think that this is happening this year compared to other years?
I'm not obviously going year to year. I think players are trying to treat their body as a temple more and more, right? They understand that if they keep their body healthy, then they'll perform better. I don't know what's the case right now. I don't know if it's heat. I don't know if it's they're working too hard, right, to be the best that they can possibly be. Joe Burrow obviously got injured again in another accident. Jalen Ramsey got injured, right? Two notable players. It's obviously my rookie running back for the Steelers got it, put on the injured list, which I'm praying he's good because I really think he's going to be something special. I don't know what's going on right now. I don't know if is it what they're eating? Are they becoming more like whatever the case may be is obviously an issue. And I think it could be correlated to one another, right? Off the field. Who knows what's going on off the field? But right now, like you said, this is a lot of injuries happening, like you said, in the first week.
Yeah, I agree. It's I don't know what the issue is. I think the only person who can figure out what the issue is the commissioner of the NFL. He needs to go to these players and be like, "What's going on? Why are you getting hurt?" And then, collect data and just make changes for the rest of training camp so no one else gets hurt. Because there was one broken arm today. Zach Moss on Indianapolis,
Yep.
he's out for months, and then a
Yep.
season-ending injury today, all in one day. And then it just reported that a Lions player, their tight end Zylstra, got a knee injury that could make him miss months. That's all in one day. And it's been like this for a whole week. So there's got to be more to the story. So if I'm the commissioner, I go to these players and ask, like, what's going on? Is it the turf? Is it the grass? What is it? And then make
Right.
these changes to make sure that these players stay healthy.
Exactly, because this is too much of a coincidence, right? I really think there's something correlated happening here. And once you can figure it out, you got to change it immediately so that no other players get hurt and that you can make the best of this year, NFL year.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of the Jalen Ramsey injury, he is going to miss all the way up until December at least. They did sign Eli Apple to be his replacement. I don't really like that signing, but it was the best that they can do. There's not many great cornerbacks on the market right now. I believe that their secondary is going to struggle without Jalen Ramsey, but it's not going to be as bad as people think. I still think they'll be able to outscore their opponents, so it won't hurt them that much, but it would definitely help. It will definitely help them when Jalen Ramsey comes back. So, what's your thoughts on his injury and how it affects the Dolphins?
So to me, I believe they had a good secondary last year. Coaching is obviously a major factor, and I think they have great coaching behind the sidelines. When you talk about Jalen Ramsey, yes, he's a great player. Is he better than what he was in um what's it called?
Los Angeles,
No.
Jacksonville?
Jackson, thank you. Is he
No,
better than what he was in Jacksonville? No. Was he better than what he was in, Los Angeles when he was there?
no.
No. So the thing is, yes, he's gonna be missed, but they're not gonna miss him so much to where it's gonna impact a team like if TJ Watt goes down, right? If Aaron Donald goes down, like all these great players that really make or break the defense. If they go down, their defense is trash. If they're great and they're healthy, their defense is the top in the league. Jalen Ramsey is just a great beneficiary for the defense. He doesn't make or break them.
Yep, I 100% agree, which is why I still expect their defense to perform to the level that they were last year, at least, if not better.
Right.
And then
Right.
when Jalen Ramsey comes back, they take it to the next level in mid-December.
Because they signed great players, right? Their defense got stacked over the season. It's not just one player. They signed, Jalen Ramsey. They signed multiple other players. So when they did that, they already pretty much made their defense better. Their offense is already what it is. Their offense can carry them so many games. Their defense is just a cherry on top of it because they're already a great team.
Yep, I agree. They still have Javon Holland. They still have Xavier
Yep.
Howard. And as I
Yeah,
said, their
oh,
offense can
Howard.
outscore their offense can outscore anybody in the league
Right.
right now with the way they got their weapons and as long as their
Exactly.
quarterback is healthy. So
Mhm.
I'm not really worried if I'm a Dolphins fan. Obviously, it stinks to see Jalen Ramsey get hurt this early, but you just hope that when he comes back that he can help you get to the playoffs and then hopefully get to where your ultimate goal is, which is a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
But moving on to another player in the NFL, DeAndre Hopkins, he did decide between the Patriots and Titans. He chose to be a Titan. Two surprising options and a surprising signing, if you ask me, because he did state that he wants to win, but I also think that he wants to be the number one receiver, and he let his pride get in the way of his decision. So he just chose to go to Tennessee because he knows he can be the number one receiver there. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's that bad, to be honest. When he was on the Texans, right, he really made or broke their that offense, right, with Jack Watson, right? So when he's the number one option in Tennessee, right, with a Derrick Henry, with a Ryan Tannehill, I think those are the three major players that you're going to be contributing most towards, right, in your offense. Really, their defense isn't their defense, right? They have an okay defense. It's not great. They're not even going to win the division this year. Let's be honest. They'll be middle of their division, not even a wild card in my opinion because of how stacked the AFC is. So, but hey, he's going to get his targets. He's going to be the next Julio Jones, right? When he was on the Falcons, Julio Jones was making all his numbers, getting all his statistics, and he's going to be the next Julio Jones. So, congrats to
Yeah,
him.
I agree. I believe that's why he went there because he wants to get the catches, get the stats. I don't think he cares about winning as much as he states he does. I think he just cares about his stats, and
Right.
that's ultimately why he chose the Titans. And yeah, he's going to get those because he outside of Traylon Burks, they really don't have any great receivers there after they traded away AJ Brown. So I mean, it's going to be him and Traylon Burks, and he's going to get the stats. How many wins it accounts for, we'll see when that time comes, but I don't expect it to be many, like you said.
I'd say maybe 5, 7 tops.
I think they get in the range of 7 to 10. That's my max.
Yeah.
Um, but we'll see what happens. You never know. We've had surprising teams before, so we'll see. But moving on to Jonathan Taylor, another trade request. Obviously, he is very unhappy with the Colts owner. After I'm sure most of you saw the tweet that he said about the running back market. I would be upset if I was Jonathan Taylor too. He went to meet with Jim Irsay 2 days ago. That ended up in a trade request. Jim Irsay said they're not going to trade him, so it's going to be a stalemate going into the season. He is still he's on his last year of his rookie contract, so it's looking like he'll play that out, but I'm not going to be surprised if he leaves after this season. So what's your thoughts on that whole situation?
First of all, I just want to mention the running back situation. Obviously, we understand running backs want to get paid. The reason why they want to get paid is because their careers are so short, right? Their longevity, they don't have any longevity, to be honest, right? Although everyone, deserves the money they deserve, it's such a risk because a running back gets hit so many times over and over and over. They get ran into the ground practically because they're a running back and they pretty much lead the offense, right? It's the fact that the risk factor. If you pay these running backs upon tens of $1 million, right? $20 million, $30 million, right? Per season, like you are a quarterback or like you are some of these receivers, they go down 1 year, that's it. Their career is over. Done. So that being when that being said, right? You got these running backs wanting their money, wanting what they deserve, like Saquon Barkley, Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, right? Jonathan Taylor, all these great running backs. Yes, they deserve the money, but will they get it? No, because they're alive. They're pretty much an economic liability because the risk factor is so high. Their careers can just end in an instant, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And it's not the fact that the running back position is dying; it's the fact that they're so important, yet they have such a high risk factor. That's why they're not getting paid.
Yeah. Since you brought that up, I'll put my opinion in there as well. I 100% agree with you. It is the risk factor, and I have Exhibit A as a Cowboys fan and Ezekiel Elliott. They
Exact perfect
paid they,
example.
they paid him 6 years, 100 million after obviously 3 great years. He came into
Right,
the league and tore it up. He
right.
deserved that contract. But once he got that contract, the wear and tear kicked in, and he started declining more and more each season to the point where we had to release him this offseason. Um,
Right.
so the risk factor is 100% the reason why they don't get paid. And it's not only that, it's also because they are, let's be honest, running backs are great, but they are so replaceable. There's countless of great running backs in every draft and
100%.
countless of great running backs in every free agency. So the owners look at that and be like, okay, so why would we give him this much money if we can just go and replace him for a smaller amount of money that can help us win in years to come?
Exactly. And the thing is, yes, you're not going to always have a Derrick Henry, right? You're not going to always have an Adrian Peterson. You're not going to always have a Marshawn Lynch, right? These guys are what a dime in a dozen, right? These guys are so unique, right? Those guys should get paid. The Jonathan Taylors, the Saquon Barkleys, the Ezekiel Elliott's, right? Those guys should get paid, but they shouldn't get as much as a quarterback or as a receiver because their careers are longer and they produce more for the team in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. And to me, the running backs making a fit about this and stuff isn't helping. The fact that they're trying to make group chats or, make injuries worse than they are, like, come on, that's just messed up. Play the game, play it the right way, perform, and you will get paid. Just continue to perform at the level you have been. And eventually, if the team you're not on doesn't pay you, another team will. So you just have to continue to perform, and eventually you're going to get the money you deserve.
Or don't play. Like you said, there's a bunch of running backs out there that would love to be in the NFL, right? That would love to have the chance that they're getting right now. So don't play. There's going to be another one of you.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, it's not going to change anytime soon. It's just going to continue to get worse. So until running backs realize that, they're just going to continue to get disgruntled.
And they really shouldn't. They should be appreciative at the opportunity they have. They're playing for the greatest football league in the world, in the NFL. They have the opportunity to make millions of dollars. They're making more than 90% of the population, right? They're making millions upon millions of dollars, and they're still complaining.
Right. Like, bro, you're still making millions of dollars. You're making more than three-quarters of the world. Just go out
Right.
there, play the game you love, and do it happily.
Exactly.
But getting back to the Jonathan Taylor situation, what's your thoughts on that whole situation?
That whole situation, I really thought he was going to get traded. Personally, I would have loved to see him in New York, right? If he was playing for the Giants, right? You trade Saquon Barkley. I think he's a more offensive asset to you than Saquon is because he's setting the passing game as well more than Saquon is. I think he's a great running back as well. Danny Dimes would also have some fun with him too. But personally, for him to be sitting out possibly, right? For the owner not to be willing to trade him, I think this is just a bad locker room issue, right? And this just shows you that yes, the Colts did draft a quarterback. Yes, they're moving forward and rebuilding a team, but they're not going to do it, in a way that creates success. And it all starts
Yeah.
with ownership and the front. Yeah,
Yeah, I
front.
100% agree with that. I don't believe Jim Irsay is a great owner. Any owner would have known that that tweet was stupid the moment he sent it.
Right.
No other NFL owner went out there and tweeted that for a reason because they know that it would make their running back mad, and he did it anyway, which, as I said, was plain out stupid and started this whole thing, in my opinion. And I don't blame Jonathan Taylor for being upset because he basically told Jonathan Taylor on Twitter and without telling him that he's just not going to pay him. So I'd be upset too if I was Jonathan Taylor.
For sure. Why would I risk my livelihood, my career, right? On based on the fact that I know I'm not getting paid. I'd rather have a chance to get paid, show my worth, get what I'm worth, and then continue on with my career. Where he can't do that in, Indianapolis. So he's got to be moving forward. Hopefully he can go someplace nice like New York or possibly Denver, someplace that needs a running back, right? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I believe that Jonathan Taylor will play out the season as a Colt though, because as Jim Irsay tweeted, he's not gonna trade him. So I don't expect that to change. I do expect Jonathan Taylor to play this year though, because of how bad of a season he had last year. So if he does play this year and plays up to the potential he was prior to this previous season, he will get the bag from someone else. So I expect him to go out there, perform, and then get the bag the next offseason from someone else.
For sure. I agree.
But is there anything else you want to touch on before we move on?
Um, let's let's talk about one thing real quick. I know you don't really watch it, but the U.S. women's they're tied 1-1 right now in the FIBA World Cup. FIFA World Cup. Right, yeah, FIFA World Cup. What is your thoughts on the U.S. team? Do you think they're going to be winning tomorrow, or do you think they're going to lose? Because it's a tougher matchup than what people think.
Who are they playing?
Let me check. But I'm saying worldwide, the competition, just like when Serena was ending her career, all these
Mhm.
other tennis, players were catching up to her and it was becoming more of a competition. The U.S. women's, they've won four straight, I believe, right? 72 straight games in FIFA World Cup they've won, and that got snapped. So looking at it, the competition's getting stronger, and it's getting harder for them to win, right? So
I do believe that obviously, as you said, I'm not big into tennis, but I do believe that the U.S. women's
soccer tennis,
is one of the best women's teams.
right?
Obviously, so I do expect them to go far.
Portugal.
I don't know if they're going to win it all, but I do expect them to at least make the quarterfinals, if not the semifinals.
I agree. I think yes, there's a lot of great teams out there. Speaking about Japan, right, is one. US is another one. Obviously, Canada got disappointed in their loss, but other than that, I think the US it's gonna be tough. I'm not as confident as I used to be, but hopefully they can pull it out, beat Portugal, and then go ahead and move on.
Yeah, for sure. Um, you got a segment you want to do?
Yeah. So sneakers that just dropped, right, is a one of one. No one else has this shoe except for the one player that I'm about to name. His name is Carmelo Anthony. It's a pair of Jordan 2s, right? He got a special box set going based on his career statistics, just celebrating his career, right? He's got some gold outlining, golden slits for the shoelaces, right? Showing his gold medals, his 3 gold medals, or yeah, 4 gold medals that he has, right? So congrats to him. They show a little bit from the Nuggets aspect and the Knicks aspect of the colors on the shoe to show dedication that he had to those organizations, right? So it's a flawless looking shoe. I wish it was out for the public, but right now it's a one of one for Carmelo Anthony, saying stay mellow.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to those as a Carmelo Anthony fan. So definitely happy about that. Excited that he finally got one of his signature shoes, and can't wait for them to drop. So in the video game world, there's two things that are happening. Obviously, Madden 24 coming out in about 2.5 weeks, August 15th, it's dropping. So definitely looking forward to that. NBA 2K24 is also releasing about a month from now. September 8th is the release date. And it was announced that finally the late great Kobe Bryant will be the cover athlete. Obviously, they had this planned. NBA 2K24, Kobe's number 24. So definitely excited to see that, and can't wait for those games to drop. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you all on the next one.
Hey, we appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure if you guys like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you guys had any, discussion, requests for next podcast, go ahead and put in the comments. And if you guys had any questions or thoughts about this podcast, go ahead and put those in the comments below as well. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.
Peace.